Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode Wall Street secrets for you and well. When it comes to Escalon Medical Corp, this 10K filing is one of those reports that really makes you scratch your head trying to figure out what is truly going on under the hood. So here we are looking at Escalon Medical Corp's annual report for the fiscal year ending the 30th of June 2025. This is where companies lay out their performance and challenges for investors and regulators to see. Right off the bat, the report signals a company in a bit of a tough spot. They are a smaller reporting company, and we see a big emphasis on the going concern issue. Basically, it means the auditors have doubts they can keep operating for another year without major problems, like not having enough cash. This is always a red flag to watch very closely. Let's dive into the financials. For the year ending the 30th of June 2025, their net revenue went up by just a tiny bit, about 0.5% to $12.046 million. That is not exactly a booming growth story. They attribute this slight increase to their Trek products doing a bit better, but Sonim and Access products saw sales drop. Now, the cost to make their products, known as cost of revenue, was about $6.535 million. This was actually a smaller percentage of their total revenue than the year before, going down from 57% to 54.3%. That sounds good, but it is mainly because of a change in what kinds of products they are selling, not necessarily because they got better at being efficient all around. Spending on marketing and just running the business in general went up by 1.4% to $4.625 million. You see increases in consulting for Access and higher payroll costs for Sonim. But they managed to cut some other expenses like network costs and corporate payroll. They also increased their spending on research and development by 9.4% to $753,000. This is for developing new or improved products, which in their case is mainly due to more consulting expenses for Access. Looking at a breakdown of their revenue, product sales were the main driver at $11.514 million. Up slightly, service plans brought in $532,000, which was actually a drop from the previous year. A bit more than half of their sales, 56%, came from within the US, totaling $6.741 million. The rest, 44%, came from international sales, which actually decreased compared to the prior year. Now we get to the really concerning numbers in the risk factors. The company has an accumulated deficit of $68.4 million. Ouch, they had recurring losses from operations and negative cash flow from operations in many years, only seeing net profit in 2 of the last 5 years. Even in the most recent year, while they had a profit, the situation is precarious. They have bad ratios for cash to liabilities and how long they take to pay their bills. This is directly from the auditors, and it is a huge alarm bell. They've prepared the financial statements assuming the company will continue, but the evidence suggests that is not a sure thing. This means you really cannot look at their balance sheet as a reliable indicator of what you might get back if things go south. A big part of their business relies on whether people actually want and buy their products. If the market does not accept their products, it could really hurt their business and finances. This depends on the price, whether they keep getting regulatory approvals, if they can prove their products are safe and work well, and if their products are actually better than what competitors offer. Like many smaller companies, their success hinges heavily on their key people. If they lose important officers or technical staff, or if they cannot find new talented people, it could really hurt their ability to grow and succeed. Escalon Medical is also facing cybersecurity risks. They have put measures in place like hiring a chief operating officer who also handles security and using outside experts. However, they admit that a successful cyber attack could cause major disruptions, data loss, and financial damage. They've got about 16,354 square feet of leased space across their corporate offices in Pennsylvania, their New York manufacturing facility, and their Wisconsin distribution center. Some of these leases are up for renewal soon, which could mean new costs or changes. You can find their stock on the OTCQB market under the symbol ESMC as of late September 2025. The stock was trading around 37 cents a share. They have never paid a dividend and do not plan to in the near future, preferring to reinvest any earnings back into the company. Now, let's look at their balance sheet as of the 30th of June 2025. They have $545,835 in cash, which is more than the $209,033 they had the year before. That is a positive sign for immediate liquidity. Their total assets are just under $5 million. On the other side, total liabilities stand at about $3.078 million. Their total current liabilities are $2.685 million. This is a pretty big chunk, and while their working capital has increased and their current ratio is just over 1.7 to 1, which is decent. The liabilities are significant. Their total stockholders' equity is around $1.915 million. The big chunk here is their series of convertible preferred stock, which is valued at $645,000. They also have a large accumulated deficit, which is the total of all their past losses, standing at nearly $68.5 million. In their statement of operations for the year ending the 30th of June 2025, they reported a net income of $105,525. This is a huge improvement from the loss of $125,261 the year before. However, the income they are reporting for common stockholders after accounting for preferred stock dividends and allocations is much lower. Earnings per share for common stockholders is basically 0 for 2025 and a negative 2 cents for 2024. This shows that even with a reported net income, the earnings are not substantial enough to make a significant impact on the value of each common share. When we look at cash flow from operating activities, it was positive $380,725 for 2025. That is a big turnaround from the $602,771 used in operating activities in 2024. This positive cash flow is a very good sign, driven by decreases in accounts receivable and increases in things like deferred revenue and accrued expenses. Investing activities show they spent very little on equipment this year, just about $3,880 compared to $40,285 the previous year. This suggests they are not expanding their physical assets much. Financing activities primarily involved repaying loans. They paid down around $3,382 on their economic injury disaster loan and $36,533 on their notes payable. A key risk for this company is customer concentration. In 2025, one customer made up 17% of their net sales, and this same customer represented 21% of their total accounts receivable. Having such a large portion of sales and receivables tied to a single client is always a risky position to be in. It is important to note that Escalon Medical operates as just one segment. This means all their business activities are grouped together, and they do not report separate financial results for different parts of their operations. The company's management identified a material weakness in their internal controls related to how they value inventory. They are working on improving this, but it shows that even with the improved financial results, there are still areas needing significant attention in their internal processes. Looking at who is in charge, Richard J. DePiano Jr. is the Chief Executive Officer and has been with the company for a long time, even before it was incorporated in Pennsylvania. He holds a significant amount of voting power due to preferred stock. Scroll Option awards number of securities underlying unexercised options 10,000 Scroll. For executive compensation, it seems like their key executive, Richard J. DePiano Jr., has some stock options outstanding, though the number is quite small. He receives a salary and some other compensation, but there are no bonuses or stock awards mentioned for 2025. Scroll security ownership of certain beneficial owners and management name Richard J. DePiano, junior amount of beneficial ownership of outstanding shares 44408333 Scroll. When it comes to ownership, Richard J. DePiano Jr. holds a substantial portion of the company, S voting power primarily through his role as executor of his father, S estate, which owns preferred stock with super voting rights. This gives him significant control over the company. Scroll-related person transactions. Scroll, you can see a significant related party transaction involving Mr. DePiano Sr. S estate and preferred stock. This historical deal significantly impacts the voting control of the company. Scroll principal accounting fees and services. Scroll the company used Markham LLP for auditing for most of the year, and then CBCPA's PC took over towards the end of fiscal year 2025. The fees for these services were around $162,000 in 2025, which is a bit lower than the prior year. So, what is the story here with Escalon Medical? On one hand, they managed to turn a loss into a small profit and have positive operating cash flow, which is definitely a positive trend. They are also making efforts to improve their internal controls. However, the lingering doubts about their ability to continue as a going concern, especially highlighted by the auditors, are impossible to ignore. Their reliance on a few key customers and the significant control held by one individual through preferred stock ownership are also major points to consider. It feels like a company battling to stay afloat and prove its viability. The market acceptance of their products remains a critical factor, and any hiccup in sales or unexpected costs could quickly shift the balance back towards negative territory. Alright, that is our breakdown of Escalon Medical. Latest filing, what is your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company? Future, share your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord community in the description for more discussions. Thanks for watching, see you next time.